what advice do you have for anyone with any brand out there regarding the fact B2B, B2C, retail, CPG, a movement can take place?
You know, there's been a lot of talk recently that, and a lot of CEOs of companies have abandoned this idea of meaningful ideas, or some people call them purpose, or some people call them mission, because they feel like it's going to lead them to woke advertising, standing for, I don't know, political issues.
Hmm.
And certainly some movements are like that. Patagonia certainly has elements of that in some of their marketing, but not everything has to be like that. You can have great movements that are about an idea that millions and millions of people already care about.
Hmm.
A case in point was when we were hired by P&G to help them rethink their biggest brand called Pampers. And Pampers, is a very famous poop catcher.
Yeah, I like
Incredibly,
it. Thank
incredibly well
Thank
engineered,
God for Pampers.
right?
Yeah,
And thank God for the engineers that could come up with that thing.
yeah.
But it wasn't until we said two words that summarized what all parents care about, that made the brand connect with culture in a much more meaningful way. And that those two words were baby development.
Mm,
We are in the service of baby development. When we make a diaper that's 2 times thinner, we help babies and young children with mobility. And if they're stimulated and they can move, their brains are stimulated and they develop faster and better. And when you go to their product innovators and you say, hey guys, the next product you innovate, you need to deliver on baby development. It
mhm.
gives them that red thread that they can use to come up with really great ideas, because innovators are kind of like marathon runners. Unless you
Right,
give them a finish line, they're just going to keep running.
right. They are.
They are.
Yeah,
So, as are many other departments in a company. So, you really need that red thread to pull everybody together. So, baby development, I don't think you're going to have a lot of politicians standing up and complaining that that's a bad idea.
yeah. I agree. And it's the distinction I think that truly differentiates, you within not only the sea of sameness, but so many competitors in the space as well. What is the process that you went through specifically with Pampers, and maybe just highlight a few of the steps that really brought you to the point of that aha moment from a positioning standpoint?
So, it goes back to my experience years ago with working with IKEA, and then we worked with Ericsson mobile phones and many other famous Scandinavian brands. And it was basically, we were playing with purpose even in those days. And,
Mhm.
I've been doing this for many years now, and I've probably done 10,000
Wow.
purpose projects. And over the years, you learn what works, what doesn't, where to not step and
Mhm.
where you can step. And I think there are a lot of practitioners out there who hear the word purpose and think, oh, yeah, that's easy, I can do it, and
Mhm.
make mistakes. And I think it's like anything in life. If you do it a long time, many times, you learn where to make the best, where to focus. And the place you shouldn't step is thinking about purpose as a statement, something a brand has, a noun, a nice paragraph that you put it, a little framed poster behind the CEO, maybe in the annual report. And typically innocuous, not particularly interesting.
Right.
Um, Perhaps something that the C-suite, the C-suite, the CEO, the CFO, the finance guy go like, yeah, that's a really good idea. But the minute it kind of goes down a couple layers, people are like, what does that even mean? Like,
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't get it. How do I tell it to my wife? Like, what is that? What? And so I think, you know, a boring purpose is wrong. Uh,
Mhm.
but also, a purpose that going to promise GE a few years ago had a purpose. They were going to bring 30,000 female engineers into the world.
Mhm.
Well, they never did, and it was a flop, and the company ended up falling apart. Not because of that purpose, but it's just an example of a poorly chosen purpose strategy. Purpose needs to be a catalyst, a rallying point
Mhm.
around culture, um, a reason for being. But, you know, I understand how some senior leaders find it difficult to write a genuinely differentiated purpose.
Right.
It's really hard. That's where a movement comes in, because a movement can activate that purpose and turn it into something much more meaningful. So, in the case of baby development, I think we had both a purpose that was truly unique and differentiated and relevant to the audience. And it had also an important, people are waiting for a purpose to be launched that they can criticize. But in the case of Pampers, it was a brand that was deeply enmeshed in baby development for many, many decades. So it had a reason to say it, and it was credible. And so then the idea of baby development that became a movement was easier. Some companies, it's harder. Like, for example, we started working with one of the largest banks in the country called SunTrust,
Mhm.
now at Truist. But in those days, um, they had a purpose. Now, if I remember correctly, what it was. Um, because I know the new one now, which is a good reason that I can't remember the old one, because the new one is really quite good. Um, what is the old one? I can't remember. It was very long and quite complicated.
Right.
So we went into the bank and said, let's take a moment and do a couple of things. First thing we want to ask is, what are we against? And
Mm.
I'm not talking about the competition. I'm talking
Right.
about what as an organization could we stand up and say what we're against. And we had just came out of had come out of the big economic recession of the, early 2010s, 2012, 2014. People, if you remember in those days, people were still, a decade ago, were still feeling the impact of that economic downturn
Right.
in culture. People were still, in pain as a result of that. So we said that's a strong thing we want to be against. We want to be against all the things that people were feeling that were negative to do with that downturn.
Mhm.
And what are we for? Which is another important question. Because if you think about what a movement is, it's taking a stand against something, but you also have to be for something. So we say we're for financial confidence. This is
Yeah.
a country that people are feeling a lack of confidence. We want to spread that word. So the movement idea was on up. Two simple
Mm.
words, on up, to help spread financial confidence.